Welcome back to the Crypto Channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is starting to retest a crucial area of support in the short term, but still playing out the bullish divergence while the US stock market is continuing to pump into all-time record highs ahead of the upcoming Fed meeting happening in just a couple of hours from now, which I'll talk about in just a moment, something that we need to pay attention to, while Ethereum has just now confirmed a break below this crucial area on the price chart, while the price of XRP is starting to possibly break out above this important level of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we start on the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, where the Federal Reserve in just a couple of hours from now is about to decide on interest rates, and we're most likely going to see an interest rate cut, reducing interest rates by 0.25%. But whatever the new number is, it'll be released at exactly 6 p.m. GMT, so you could use that with your own time zone, but by the time you're watching this video, if you're watching it as soon as I post it, it'll be a couple of hours from now. And of course, as I mentioned in my last video, I will be sharing the new interest rate number the moment it gets released, within a matter of seconds from this number being released in real time over on my Twitter or X, link below this video if you want that real time update. And just giving you a quick update on what the market is currently pricing in. Currently, the market is pricing in pretty much a 100% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut, so reducing interest rates by 0.25%. And the market really isn't pricing in anything other than that outcome, where they're almost pricing in no chance of keeping interest rates at the same level and almost no chance of cutting further than 25 basis points. And so what this basically means is the market is currently acting as if the interest rate is already being cut 25 basis points. They're already pricing that into the current market, which basically means if we get that expected outcome of 25 basis point rate cut, essentially that's neutral for markets, because markets are already pricing that in, already expecting it as if it's already happened. But if we see anything other than a 25 basis point rate cut in a couple of hours from now, that is where we could potentially see a lot of volatility, because that is not what the market is expecting. So for example, if we see a 50 basis point rate cut, so reducing interest rates by 0.5%, if that somehow happens, which right now is very, very low probability, then we'll likely see a huge bullish move, at least in the short term in the markets, a lot of volatility. And on the other hand, if we see no change in interest rates with this upcoming Fed meeting, so no rate cut at all, in that situation, of course, would likely see a short-term dump as a very likely scenario in the markets. And as usual, we have the Jerome Powell press conference, the Fed chair press conference, roughly half an hour, or starting roughly half an hour after the rate decision. So at roughly 6:30 p.m. GMT, that press conference starts, which can also cause a bit of volatility depending on what the Fed chair actually says in that press conference. So keep that in mind. Around this time, in a few hours from now, expect a decent amount of short-term volatility in the markets. And if we're taking a quick look at the US stock market, I'm recording this video right before the US stock market's about to open, and currently it's set to open basically at all-time record highs, at the high that we saw in the previous trading day. So obviously the US stock market has been performing very well over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, which can also help the crypto market. Usually if the stock market is extremely bullish, crypto is performing relatively well as well. And then of course, if we see a major dump in the US stock market, like what we saw a few weeks ago around the 10th of October, of course, when that happens, we also usually see a dump in the crypto market, as we saw a couple of weeks ago with that massive liquidation event at the same time as this liquidation event in the US stock market. And so in other words, it is very unlikely that Bitcoin and crypto will start a major bear market like what we saw in 2022 if the US stock market continues performing like this, pushing into all-time highs, because historically that has never happened. We've never seen basically a massive bear market like this while the stock market has been so bullish. Usually we see crypto bear markets like this, like 2022, when the stock market is also very bearish, like what we saw in 2022 in the US stock market. And so at least so far, this can give us confidence in the crypto market for the time being. As always, not financial advice, but if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. So not a lot has changed on this chart over the last one day, but if we're taking a look at the weekly Bitcoin price chart right here, looking at the RSI, we still have a massive bearish divergence between the price and the RSI, meaning that at least for now, at the current stage in this bull market, we're currently losing bullish momentum, basically cooling off a little bit in the somewhat shorter term relative to the weekly time frame, which can mean most likely a period of at least a number of weeks, possibly a period of months, as a very likely likely scenario for the price basically lacking bullish momentum, slowing down, but potentially still within the bull market, kind of like what we saw around mid-2024, for example. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, of course, the price of Bitcoin is still holding above this important line right here, previous support, which will now once again likely act as new support, and that's sitting at closer towards 111,000 right now. So if we see a continued dip, expect a lot of support really in between 110.5k to 111,000. And as for other support and resistance to watch out for, of course, we have this short-term support based on previous resistance, which the price is now pretty much retesting and so far currently experiencing a slight bounce from. That's sitting in between around 111.6k to 112k approximately. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance, at least in the short term, sitting in between around 115.5k to 116,000, which is an area of resistance I've been warning about since before we perfectly rejected from that area over the last couple of days. But if the price can ultimately break out above 116,000 with confirmation, so a candle close here on the 6-hour time frame above 116,000 and actually holding above that level, in that situation, honestly, I'll be targeting roughly 121,000, really above 120,000, around 120.5k to 121,000 as the next major area of resistance that I'll be watching, the next major price target in the short term if we first confirm a breakout above around 116,000. But obviously, if you've been watching my last couple of videos, this slight little cool off rejection in the immediate short term was very much expected due to the fact that we're running into this resistance and also due to the fact that we're brushing against overbought in the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI, and of course on smaller time frames hitting overbought, which is a signal telling us that we're likely going to experience just a slight little cool off, but potentially still within the short-term bullish trend. So kind of like right now is potentially what we saw right here, for example. And at least as of right now, this bullish divergence on the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart is still currently active. We've not confirmed any invalidation signal to actually invalidate the bullish divergence, which means it's likely that the price will continue a little bit more of a relief and maybe ultimately another retest of this resistance within the next few days. But remember, that is based on the price charts alone. I want to remind you that in just a couple of hours from now, we have an FOMC meeting or a Fed meeting, which could potentially change things in the short term. So keep that in mind. There is a bit of uncertainty over the next few hours as we're coming up to this Fed meeting, which means, of course, we could see some uncertain price action. It could really go anywhere depending on what is said in the Fed meeting. But if we see a relatively neutral Fed meeting, then basically expect the TA to continue to play out as I've been saying. And when it comes to my trading strategy, it has not changed at all over the last one day. I'm still currently in my futures grid bot over on my Pinex account, which is still making easy and passive profits in this Bitcoin and crypto market right here. So it doesn't really matter if we see a bit more of a dump and then some sort of bounce, for as long as we ultimately see a bounce or recovery in the price of Bitcoin at some stage, this trading strategy will make money. Because in case you're new to the channel, basically, as you can see right here over on my Pinex account, the trading bot, the grid bot, has a massive grid of buy and sell orders to the downside and the upside. So basically, if we see a drop in the price of Bitcoin, it buys Bitcoin at all of these levels to the downside. And then the moment we see any sort of bounce, it sells that Bitcoin towards the upside at the higher prices to automatically buy low and sell high. And the great thing about having a trading bot do this for me is two things. First of all, it removes the emotion of having to buy when people are fearful and sell when people are greedy. It just removes the emotion. It does it automatically. And of course, it's passive. So I set it up once and it's automatically running, placing the orders for me and automatically making easy profits. As you can see right here, as I've been sharing every day transparently, completely for free here on YouTube for almost the past 2 weeks now, this trading bot has been running. And so that is still my trading strategy, giving you an update on exactly how I'm planning to make easy profits in this Bitcoin market right here from the next Bitcoin move about to happen very soon. And of course, if you want to copy this trading strategy, I'll leave a link below this video. In fact, the second link below this video will take you to this page right here where you can actually copy my trading bot, copy this trading strategy of mine if you want to with a single click of a button. And you can see on this page, if you use the second link below the video, that the trading strategy has been running for around 12 days. So coming up to 2 weeks now, easily profitable, as you can see right here. Once again, I've been showing this step by step every day transparently here on the channel over the last couple of weeks since the moment I opened the strategy. But because I have this set up over on my Pinex account, as you can see right here, of course, in order to actually copy this trading strategy, you will need to make a Pinex account using the link below the video. Unfortunately, if you don't have a Pinex account, actually sign up using one of those links. Unfortunately, this copy button simply will not work. And if you actually use the first link below this video to Pinex, that link will take you to this sign up page right here, where you can also claim some massive bonuses just by making an account, completing KYC. You get a 50 USDT bonus into your Pinex account, or if you make some deposits here, you can also get deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit as little as 100 USDT, you get a 100 USDT bonus. If you deposit 10,000, you get a 1,000 USDT bonus into your Pinex account, simply just by making a deposit, but only if you use that link below the video to actually make your Pinex account. Once again, if you don't use that link, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. And also, if you don't use the link below the video to make your account, unfortunately, you can't copy this trading strategy. So that's just an update on my trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin and overall what I expect in the short term. And of course, giving you a quick update on that upcoming Fed meeting in just a couple of hours from now. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that in the shorter term, we still have more liquidity towards the upside at around 116.4K, give or take. So ultimately, that's the next major price target towards the upside, which means ultimately, if we see a relatively neutral or maybe a slightly bullish Fed meeting, anything other than a bearish Fed meeting, it's likely that we'll continue to see a slight little relief over the next couple of days here towards this resistance, to retest this resistance here as the price gets drawn towards this liquidity. But remember, we could potentially still struggle a little longer around this resistance in between 115,500 to 116,000. But if you want a completely no KYC alternative to Pinex to actually manually trade Bitcoin and crypto, to place long positions or short positions, for example, personally, for those sort of things, I like to use 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also use. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below the video. In fact, the third link below the video will take you to this page right here, where you can also claim massive bonuses just by making an account, making deposits, and making trades. For example, up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins just by making an account, making deposit, and making trades over on 2bit, but only if you use that link. And on top of that, if you use the link below the video to make your account without making any deposits or any trades, you can get a free $30 sign up bonus and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade. So basically very cheap trading fees and essentially free money from the exchange just by simply making an account. It takes 30 seconds to do this using that third link below the video. But once again, if you don't use that link, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well take advantage of that using the links below this video. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, currently the Bitcoin dominance is still playing out this bullish divergence, which means ultimately expect just a very slight bullish relief as the most common outcome from a bullish divergence. And so basically the price action that we've seen every day over the last couple of weeks is ultimately what I expect moving forward as the most common outcome. Maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action here and there, but ultimately just a very, very slight bullish relief as a very likely outcome in the Bitcoin dominance moving forward. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, right now this bullish divergence is also active for Ethereum, which means continue to expect either the price to bounce around relatively sideways like this, or potentially play out just a slight bullish relief as the most likely outcomes, the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And if we're taking a look at this 8-hour Ethereum price chart, we can see that over the last one day, we've now technically confirmed a couple of candle closes on the 8-hour Ethereum price chart back below this important area on the price chart, which was previous resistance and was a little bit of short-term support here over the last one day. And that was sitting in between around 40.60 to 4.1K. So obviously now that the price is broken below that area, that's not really good news in the immediate short term, and that could likely now become a new resistance again, which means if we see another little bounce here, expect the price to potentially struggle or possibly even reject from within this area 40.60 to 4.1K. And if the price can actually break out back above 4.1K and hold above that level, in that situation, expect to move towards this next resistance at around 42.50 to 42.80. And obviously over the last couple of days, we pretty much perfectly rejected from that exact area, which was an area that I warned about here on the channel before we rejected from that area. So still obviously acting as major resistance. And as for support to watch out for, expect some support at just under 4,000, around 39.50 give or take, based on this previous short-term resistance here, flipping into new support. And below 39.50, the next significant support is really in between around 37.20 to 37.60, so just below 3.8K as strong support down here. And honestly, now that the price of ETH has technically confirmed a breakback below this area in between 4060 to 4.1k, even if we break it back above that area, due to the fact that we have now technically confirmed a break below that area, I have basically lost confidence in this triangle pattern on the 4-hour Ethereum price chart ultimately playing out, which means no longer really expect this to play out. We've pretty much lost all of the bullish momentum here, at least in the short term. Now, technically speaking, we haven't fully invalidated the pattern because we haven't technically broken back below roughly 39.70, the point of the breakout, as we can see right here. At least for now, we're still holding above that level. But with that being said, no longer really rely on this pattern anymore. And so that is why I always say two different things. First of all, I always say if we break out and set up a bullish price target, we cannot ignore other points of resistance on the price chart where the price can struggle at or possibly reject from, like in between 42.50 to 42.80, which is exactly what we saw at that resistance. So here on this channel, when I talk about trading strategies, I look at points of resistance and like to take profits just before those points of resistance, which is what I explained a few days ago before we saw this breakout trading opportunity here. And the other thing that I always mention when it comes to a trading strategy, especially when it comes to a breakout trading strategy, personally, as always, not financial advice, but personally, I like to move my stop loss at least up towards my entry, towards break even, ideally moving my stop loss further into profits as the trade moves further into profits, so that by the time we're, say, roughly halfway between the breakout and the price target, we already have a stop loss at least slightly in profits, so that even in the worst case scenario, if the price just crashes back down, that automatically hits the stop loss, automatically closes the trade at that level in profits. And so even if we have a situation like this where we only make it about halfway between the breakout and the price target, this can still be a very profitable trade if you follow the right risk management, like for example, taking profits around certain points of resistance along the way, just reducing the size of the trade, not closing the entire trade at any one level, but taking a bit of profits off the table around key points of resistance where we could possibly reject from, and of course having a stop loss, slowly moving towards the upside in the case of a long positions, further into profits to secure profits in the worst case scenario. As always, not financial advice, that's just simply explaining risk management when it comes to my trading strategies to secure profits, even if we have an outcome like this. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is starting to break out back above this area on the price chart, sitting in between 190 to 200. And recently this has been acting as short-term resistance, and in the past it was also a lot of resistance and also a lot of support for the price. So in the past this has been a crucial area on the price chart. So especially if we now confirm this 2-day candle close back above 200 and actually hold above this area, of course that would be a bullish signal, at least in the short term. And in that case, the next short-term resistance I'll be watching would be sitting at roughly $209, give or take, and above that we have significant resistance at around $230. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, technically speaking, the RSI is obviously still trending towards the upside here. We did briefly break below the ascending line of support for the RSI back here with that previous dip right here, but with that being said, because we're still trending towards the upside, ultimately forming higher lows and higher highs in the RSI here on the 8-hour Solana RSI, and especially because Bitcoin and other crypto assets are performing similar here in the short term, playing out just a short-term bullish trend, we're most likely going to continue this same sort of price action that we've seen over the last 1 to 2 weeks as a very likely scenario moving forward for Solana. But as always, don't forget we have points of resistance along the way. Like for example, we could find some short-term resistance at roughly $203 to $204, more resistance around $209, and more resistance at around $219 to $220. And so overall, that's what I ultimately expect for Solana moving forward and the key levels to watch out for along the way. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, we're still technically playing out this bullish divergence. It's not yet confirmed any invalidation signal, which means it's still playing out. It's still active on the price chart. And so as I've been saying every day over the last 1 to 2 weeks since this actually confirmed, expect just a slight bullish relief in the short term as a very likely scenario for the price of XRP. But of course, along the way, we'll run into certain points of resistance where the price will struggle at in the immediate short term, possibly see slight rejections from, like for example, this area that I've been warning about since before we hit the area, sitting in between $2.60 to $2.70. So at least for now, we're still struggling around this resistance, but the price is getting closer towards possibly breaking out above this resistance, which if in that situation, if we actually break out above $2.70 with confirmation, ultimately just continue to expect the bullish divergence to keep playing out towards the next resistance here, sitting at roughly $2.88, and above that, expect a lot of resistance at just under $3.10. And so essentially right now, we're trying to play out the bullish divergence, forming a bullish relief in the price, but struggling around resistance in the immediate short term. But the longer we press up against this resistance, could be a similar situation to Bitcoin, for example. The price was constantly pressing up against this resistance in the short term at roughly 112K, and the longer we press up against the resistance, the more likely we'll soon enough break that resistance. So that could be a similar situation for XRP. If we keep pushing up against this resistance here, soon we could possibly see a breakout here. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 8-hour time frame, despite the fact that we're still struggling around resistance, clearly obviously losing some bullish momentum in the immediate short term, technically speaking, we still have an active inverse head and shoulders pattern with an active price target sitting at around $2.88. And so once again, at $2.88 based on this price target and also based on this previous Fibonacci level at $2.88 would be the next major price target for the price of XRP in the shorter term, in the next few days or in the next 1 or 2 weeks, as a very likely scenario if, of course, we first break out above $2.70. Remember, we still have a lot of resistance. We're still running into in between roughly $2.60 to $2.70 right here. And as always, if the price comes back down towards the point of the breakout and especially breaks below the point of the breakout at roughly $2.50, in that situation, that would invalidate the breakout, invalidate the pattern, and invalidate this price target. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, right now it's a very similar situation for Chainlink as what I just said for XRP. Technically still playing out this bullish divergence. We've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal here on this daily Chainlink price chart to invalidate the bullish divergence, which means continue to expect either some choppy sideways price action like this or potentially just a slight bullish relief as the most common outcomes, the very likely outcomes from a bullish divergence. So basically the price action that we've seen over the last 1 to 2 weeks, continue to expect that to ultimately play out here in the short term over the coming days or possibly weeks. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, expect some support at roughly around 1730 to 1750 and major support at around 1650 and also in between 1520 to 1570. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance really in between $19 to $20, especially in between $19.50 to $20, acting as strong resistance. And if we can break out back above $20 with confirmation, so a candle close above $20 and actually holding above that level, in that situation, it would be extremely likely we'll see a move at least up towards around $22, which would be around a 10% move towards the upside, which could be a trading opportunity. But once again, we first need to actually confirm a breakout above $20, which for now is still acting as strong resistance. And so ultimately, those are my expectations in the somewhat shorter term here for all of these crypto assets and the key levels to watch out for. And of course, sharing my exact trading strategy, sharing with you completely for free, fully transparently here on the channel, how to make easy profits in the crypto market, showing you myself how to make easy profits. And of course, if you want to take these sort of trades for yourself, check out the links below this video to these exchanges if you want to claim the massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take these trades no matter what the price is doing to easily profit in the market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.